Batman is one of the most popular superheroes of all time, if not the most popular superhero, and he's been that way for about 80 years ever since the very beginning. And I feel like, in particular, over the last 40 years or so, he has overtaken Superman as the most powerful and iconic DC superhero. And with a resume like that, it is no surprise that over the years he's had quite a few different versions and variations of this character, each with differing power levels. So I want to go through and explore the most powerful versions of Batman that we've ever seen, finishing with the most powerful version of all time. With that said, let's get into it, starting with our baseline number 10, normal Batman. This is just the regular Batman you know and love that you go pick up on the shelf and read. It's the baseline, like I said. He's a martial arts master, mastering over 100 forms. He's a genius. He's got so much tech at his disposal, from cars, boats, planes, gadgets, body armor, all of that stuff that makes him the crime fighting machine that he is. Trying to list out the feats for main continuity Batman would take all day, but needless to say, he's one of the key members of the Justice League despite having no powers. He's defeated the Justice League before, he's outsmarted gods like Darkseid. He's faced down pretty much every kind of threat that you can imagine, and he's filthy stinking rich. At number 9, we have Damian Wayne Batman. This is from Batman issue 666, and I think we saw something with him more recently too, I could be wrong. But this is the version of Batman that is Damian Wayne, all grown up, taking over the mantle from his father. Now, not only does he have the skills, teaching, and knowledge of the previous Batman, his father, who passed all this stuff down to him, so he starts with many of the advantages our previous Batman had. This version of Batman also sold his soul to the devil in order to be Gotham's protector forever. So he is immune to death. He can't die, which is a pretty good perk, and he is far more brutal than the previous Batman, taking out his enemies and the criminals of Gotham with extreme prejudice. He also has some mystical elements to him as well that stem from this deal with the devil that he made. But all in all, I see him as pretty much the same Batman as before, but darker, more brutal, more effective, and eternal because he can't die. For number 8, we have Owlman. This is the Earth 3 version, the counterpart to Batman from Earth 3. A member of the crime syndicate. If you've seen Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, or read the comics which it was based on, like Forever Evil, or Justice League Earth 2, you know who I'm talking about. This character really is just a dark reflection of Bruce Wayne and the Batman persona. He has many of the same gifts as Batman, being extremely intelligent, being a master tactician and strategist, maybe even more so than Bruce, being a master martial artist, at least on par with Batman, and still having all the insane tech that Batman has, and again, maybe even more advanced tech than Bruce. While he served on the crime syndicate, we saw him constantly undermining or outsmarting or outplanning the other members of the crime syndicate, as well as the heroes that were there to stop him. And like Bruce, he doesn't have any powers, so he really does have to rely on his mind, and time again we saw him planning out very grand, elaborate schemes far into the future in order to get what he wants, which does allow him to inevitably escape or overcome different superpowered beings like Ultraman, and even had him so close to destroying the entire multiverse. Owlman is essentially an evil Batman with no boundaries, with the intellect and strategy and planning and physical capabilities to match. You do not want to get on his bad side. Now, so far we've mostly talked about Batmen who are essentially just Bruce Wayne with a little bit of variation that make them a little bit better. And our next character, number 7, Batman 1,000,000, I think is the ultimate example of this. The ultimate version of the Bruce Wayne Batman. So Batman 1,000,000 from the DC 1,000,000 series takes place in the 853rd century, far into the future. And this gives him a huge advantage, as the technology that he has access to is far more advanced than anything current era Batman could ever dream of. Batman 1,000,000's intellect is also far above our regular Batman. He has an IQ of 1045, which here on Earth, having an IQ of 140 is considered genius. So his intellect is so far above what we could even comprehend, to the degree that even Superman, Kal-El's mind was overwhelmed with the amount of information that Batman 1 million had. Being an 853rd century citizen also gives him additional abilities like telepathy and some enhanced physical characteristics. Also, he knows many more forms of martial arts because he is not just restricted to Earth's martial arts. He knows martial arts techniques from across the universe, and he displayed them against main era Batman when they did meet, as he was able to catch our Batman Bruce Wayne off guard and defeat him with a single blow. And he can also incorporate psychic attacks into his fighting style. And he very nobly used all of these characteristics and skills that he has to not just take on Arkham Asylum, he took on the entire Asylum planet of Pluto before being inducted into their version of the Justice League, the Justice Legion Alpha. Batman 1 million literally just is the peak version of Batman that we could ever get that is more true to the roots in the actual character that we know. So with that said, who could possibly be above Batman 1 million? We still got quite a few to go through. Well, past this point, we're getting into Batman who are essentially Batman plus another subset of superpowers or something like that. Not quite the street level hero that we have come to know and love, but they're still versions of Batman nonetheless. And so number 6, I want to talk about Bat Mage. And parentheses, really all the Dark Knight's Batman, as I feel they can all fall in this tier. Specifically, Bat Mage is a Batman who is trained by Zatanna. He's a master of the mystical arts, a very powerful sorcerer, and additionally, he was able to capture the entity, the Spectre, who's extremely powerful, and uses the Spectre to power his wand and his mystical abilities. So Bat Mage, extremely powerful being. But again, all Dark Knight's Batman, essentially. So that's the Devastator, that's the Dawnbreaker, Red Death. I would put all of them on this tier. I know they're not technically all the same power level, but I did want to group them because the Dark Knight's Metal had so many different versions of Batman. You could make your own tier list just talking about them, but I didn't want them to overrun our entire list here. But needless to say, these versions of Batman are extremely powerful. We're getting on the Justice League level of power, like the Devastator, for example, is a Doomsday version of Batman, on par with the likes of Superman. Red Death is a Flash version of Batman who's on par with the Flash. Batmage here, again, extremely powerful as well, to the likes of Zatanna or Zatara. Justice League level threats, and again, all twisted versions of Batman. Well, what about a nicer version of Batman instead of all these dark reflection type characters? Well, let's look at number 5, Speeding Bullets Batman. And this is sort of a DC Comics equivalent of What If, where this is a version of Batman who is the last son of Krypton. He's still Bruce Wayne, though. Crash lands on Earth. He's taken in by the Waynes. Essentially a merging of the Batman and Superman storylines, where Bruce Wayne ends up becoming Superman. So you have the sort of tact and craft and intellect and all that stuff of Bruce Wayne Batman, but with the power set of Superman, who's pretty much the ultimate hero. And that's why I'm putting him above the Dark Knight's Metal or Dark Knight's Batman, because even though some of them probably are more powerful than Superman typically, I think combining Superman's powers with Batman's mind definitely gives him an advantage over the other Batman on this list. Number 4, we're getting into God status. This is the Mobius Chair Batman. This is from the Darkseid War arc, where all of the Justice League kind of got a taste of God power, but Batman specifically got one of the coolest, which was the Mobius Chair. When he sits on this chair, he immediately becomes the new God, taking the place of Metron before him, and he has pretty much infinite omniscience, infinite knowledge. He can transport himself anywhere in the universe in the blink of an eye. It essentially gives him knowledge and strategy beyond any sort of human comprehension. And it takes him to this level where he's like above humanity now, to where he's kind of like the Watchers from Marvel Comics, who know everything but don't quite intervene. Despite this feeling, he does try and use his immeasurable intellect and knowledge to prevent crime and find out other big secrets like the true identity of the Joker, for example. And if he was left alone on that chair, I have no doubt he could have erased all crime in the universe. But of course, he couldn't stay there forever. Number 3, we have Batman with the Hellbat armor. Now, a lot of people rank this as the number 1 version of Batman, but I do happen to disagree. Maybe at the time, this is back in 2014 when this first appeared, this could have been the number 1, but nowadays I don't think so. But this is a version of Batman who has armor crafted by the Justice League that gives him essentially godlike power, or power enough to take on the gods, let's say. Wearing this armor, he was able to go to Apocalypse and do battle with the other gods, even being able to fight Darkseid. And of course, given his superior martial arts skills and everything, he was able to best Darkseid wearing the Hellbat armor. And I think due to that feat alone, as well as the general power creep of comic books, I think this does put him above the Speeding Bullets version of Batman, and puts him above the Mobius chair because, while the Mobius chair Batman was definitely smarter, a better tactician, better strategy, all that stuff, this version is purely more powerful. I think equally on this tier could also be the Dark Father, who again is from Dark Knight's Metal, or at least the wider Dark Knight's Metal universe. It's a version of Batman who defeated Darkseid and then took his powers, so it's like Darkseid Batman, who likely is more powerful than the previous people on this list, but I would put him on par with the Hellbat suit, given the Hellbat was able to defeat Darkseid also. And while it may not come with Darkseid's powers necessarily, it is at least on the same power level of him. I think this is very nearly the ultimate power that Bruce Wayne has ever held himself, to truly put himself on par with the Justice League, if not above them. And I hope we see more of the Hellbat in the future. It'd be nice to see it come back. Number 2, we have a tie. It is a tie between the Batman Who Laughs and Batman Hatton, aka the final Bruce Wayne. And I say that they're a tie because they're essentially the same power source, being Dr. Manhattan, so it only makes sense to put them on the same list, same tier. Now, you know me, if you've watched my videos before, I've said my piece about the Batman Who Laughs. You can watch other videos where I talk about it in more detail. But it's undeniable the amount of power that this character ended up having. What started out as just a dark, twisted version of Batman, who's essentially the Joker and Batman mixed into one character, quickly turned into an omnipotent, cruel god who is threatening the entire multiverse. And this was achieved once the Batman Who Laughs obtained the power of Dr. Manhattan and used that power to essentially torment the multiverse, killing many different versions of Batman, taking over all these different realities, killing countless Batmen. His intellect is on a multiversal level, extremely smart, unbelievably powerful, really like the peak most power you can ever have. And Batman Hatton is essentially the same thing as Bruce Wayne, but with the power of Dr. Manhattan. However, that power is really utilized through the Batman Who Laughs, even though they're essentially equivalent. And kind of like what I said about Hellbat, recently I think a lot of people would consider this to be the most powerful version of Batman we've ever seen because, again, he's a multiversal threat, wiping out realities. We've got Batman's mind, the Joker's madness, and the power of Dr. Manhattan makes you a pretty much unstoppable threat. But I don't think he's number 1. Before I get to number 1, though, I do want to talk about some honorable mentions. These are essentially just alternate versions of Batman that I quite like, that don't quite have the power level at this tier. I think they're probably below normal Batman, but they are cool nonetheless. This is like Omega Batman from Last Night on Earth, who has the anti-life equation. The Justice League 3000 version of Batman, Absolute Batman. Zurin R, the Thomas Wayne Flashpoint Batman I like a lot. Batman Beyond, I think, is also here. And also Predator Batman, though essentially it's just any one-off Batman upgrade that was like for one issue that never came back. I think all of these fall on the honorable mention list. If you have other honorable mentions or somebody that I'm missing here, be sure to let me know in the comments. So, number 1, the most powerful version of Batman we've ever seen, I think has to be the White Lantern Batman. Personally, I think the White Lantern ring and sort of the White Lantern energy is underrated in the DC universe just for how powerful it is. It is the most powerful color in the entire emotional spectrum. Instead of just being one emotion that it has power over, this embodies all of life itself. and grants control over the entire emotional spectrum. Those with the White Lantern ring are immortal. They can resurrect others. They have control again over life itself. They can rewrite reality and alter reality. They can manipulate matter, energy, biological life at will. It also has unlimited energy. The power batteries for a White Lantern ring does not need to be recharged because it draws power from all life in the multiverse. So you're not just immortal, you're not just able to manipulate and control reality. You still have all the powers of a lantern ring with creating constructs and things like that, being able to draw from the entire emotional spectrum also. And while in the comics we did not see a lot of the White Lantern Batman, the story was mostly just everybody getting a White Lantern ring. However, with Batman's intellect, his tactical genius, and everything combined with the power of the White Lantern ring, I think that has to be the most powerful version we've ever seen. Because not only is he a master planner, far smarter than some of the other most powerful lantern wielders like Hal Jordan or even Sinestro, he himself does have one, immense willpower, but two, some built-in resistances to fear and rage, as he has complete control over his body. And in the past, we know he has used other lantern rings like green and yellow and black. So Batman with this White Lantern ring gives him, again, infinite energy, pretty much infinite knowledge and power, power over life itself, immortality, reality warping. What more could you ask for? Now, I will put a small asterisk next to this by saying this comes from more so the ring than from Batman, to the level that you could pretty much swap out anybody with a White Lantern ring and they would be at this level of power. And so the backup number one that I think relies more on Batman's ability is the final Batsuit from the Justice League 6th Dimension storyline. So if that was number one, this is number 0. The final Batsuit. And again, this takes place in a storyline where we're trying to defeat the World Forger, and it's a suit constructed by a future version of himself, which is meant to defeat the Justice League who have fallen in line with the World Forger. And again, this is like a 6th dimensional, omnipotent, multiversal level being. The reason that this suit is on par, if not better, but let's say on par with the White Lantern ring, is that it is constructed from something called a Sunbox, which is a sentient computer that can read minds, and Batman purposed it into a suit. This suit is made out of Element X, which is the purest form of creation itself, and it can adapt to the powers of the Justice League, which he was able to defeat with a single blow. It can also read and alter the minds of its opponents, turning thoughts into reality and truly warping and altering reality on a cellular level. So it's pretty much a suit that is adapting to the power of the Justice League. It's rewriting reality as it's going, giving him every advantage and negating any advantage of the other Justice League. It truly is Batman's ultimate creation and the culmination of all of his skill, intellect, prowess, everything like that all into this one machine that gives him powers that are beyond godlike. So like the White Lantern ring, he can rewrite reality. I think the White Lantern ring offers many other benefits on top of that this suit does not have. However, this suit is from the mind of Bruce Wayne versus the Lantern ring is something more given to him. So I could see this, the final Batsuit, truly being the most powerful version of Batman versus just the most powerful weapon he's ever used. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is there anything that I missed? Do you think that my order is correct or incorrect? Let me know what your top 10 is in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.